generation of Conservatives who are pretty brassed off with Brussels. Adam's been tracking them down.
When Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister, the building behind me housed Conservative Central Office. This month it opened as the EU's official outpost in London. How things change. Then this was the sound of Tory Euroscepticism.
He wanted the Commission to be the executive and he wanted the Council of Ministers to be the Senate. No, no, no.
Suddenly, Brussels bashing is back in fashion, this time over the EU's plan to increase its budget for next year by 6%, including a 4% rise in admin costs, which MEPs will vote on this week. Last week, MPs here voted to freeze Britain's contribution at 2010 levels, but several Conservatives urged the government to cut it, a campaign organised by the backbencher Douglas Carswell.
It seems wrong to me to be reducing money and public services in order to increase the 380 million that we will be giving to the EU institutions.
A significant number of the MPs who backed him were elected in 2010.
I think there's a new generation of MPs in the House of Commons who recognise that in this age of anti-politics, what people want are honest MPs, MPs who recognise that their primary purpose is to represent their constituents. In the old politics, I think some MPs perhaps forgot that.
So come and meet the new generation of Eurosceptics who want to be heard.
No way. Well, I would say that we are a Eurosceptic party, that the leadership does not want to transfer any more powers to Europe, particularly without it giving the people a say-so, that the new intake reflect that nature of the strongly being Eurosceptic, and so in that sense the party has changed from the 1990s.
I asked the question in the debate, where can a member of the British public vote to get rid of the President of the Commission? And of course I knew the answer, you can't. And yet President Barroso is there making speeches about the kind of tax he'd like to raise in Europe. And I don't want to be melodramatic, but history's been here before. If there's a disconnect between representation and taxation, then there is a problem.
I think that the government should actually set a budget that includes a reduction in the amount we pay Brussels. And if Brussels kick up a fuss about that, as undoubtedly they will, what we should do is call an immediate referendum and ask the British public whether we should remain a member of the European Union.
And this is nothing. Soon European leaders will debate the EU's overall budget up till 2020, which includes thorny issues like the Common Agricultural Policy and Britain's rebate.
Well, joining us now, the new Conservative MP for Rochester and Stroud, Mark Reckless, is with us. But I am going to start with Menzies Campbell, because at a time when we're talking about the pain that might be caused by these cuts, should we even be countenancing sending money to Europe?
Well, go back to the coalition agreement. Both the parties were agreed that for the duration of this Parliament, putting it colloquially, Europe should not be an issue. Not least, of course, because the Lisbon Treaty had an enormously detrimental effect in the course of the last Parliament. All round, all parties suffered from it. And it seems to me it makes no sense at all to be provocative in relation to the issue of Europe. And that's why I was disappointed that some of the Conservative MPs went into the lobby last week. And from what you say, some may be inclined to do the same again.
Well, one of them is right there, sitting next to you. I mean, why are you rocking the boat right now?
Well, I'm not sure I agree with Sir Ming's characterisation of the coalition agreement. What we saw last month is the government agreed an additional 380 million to the EU that hadn't previously been countenanced. So what we see is over a 2-year period, our net contribution to the EU going up by 60%. Now, okay, we're ring-fencing the NHS and overseas aid, but there's one area, there is this huge increase. I don't think there should be a huge increase. It should be reduced.
No matter what your discomfort may be, your own leader has said, please keep a lid on it. I mean, he said, look, you know, a constructive approach is what he's talking about, and yet you're blowing that lid off, and you know how damaging it could be.
I mean, also last Wednesday we heard Justine Greening, the Treasury Minister, saying that voting for Douglas Carswell's amendment would have been illegal. I've never heard anything more extraordinary. In our country, it's not the government that's sovereign. It's certainly not the EU. It is the Westminster Parliament. And if we say the EU budget should be reduced, the government will reduce it.
I'm not sure I'd have used the word illegal, but it would have been against our obligation. I mean, we have obligation, for example, to the United Nations. I don't hear anyone saying we should cut that because we are engaged in a period of economic retrenchment here at home in the United Kingdom. You have obligations to international institutions. You have to meet them. If you decide not to meet them, then you have to accept that there will be some kind of blowback.
But doesn't this rumbling, emanating partly from next to you, indicate that actually the Eurosceptic movement is fine and healthy and it can damage?
Well, that's a question you should be addressing to another Conservative MP rather than me. From my point of view, I think
You're part of the coalition.
of course, but from my point of view, what the coalition decided in the agreement, we can argue about the precise terms, was essentially to avoid Europe being at the centre of the stage as it had been in the past, and thereby causing splits. And the importance of these financial decisions, difficult financial decisions we are taking, is that there should be a unity of purpose. This kind of thing detracts.
Let me just get the last word to you very briefly. How far are you prepared to go?
Well, I think we're all in this together. The Chancellor's finding these other reductions. No, I mean, just take child benefit for example. You know, we're finding $1 billion by not giving it to top-rate taxpayers, although the commitment was to do so previously. Similarly, there's now suggestions that it might be taken away from children over 16. But at the same time, I find that we're paying £70 million every year to children elsewhere in the EU in child benefit who aren't even here. Now, surely that's also something we should consider. We can't have the EU as the only area that's exempt, that's going up by 60% while finding these reductions elsewhere. We must make savings.
Okay, thank you very much. Mark Reckless.